Hey guys, this is Dave with Clockwork Guitar. Thanks for joining me here in my studio slash board game room. A little weird combination, but there you go. Um, I wanted to start with, start kind of developing some videos talking about modes, which I think are, a topic that a lot of people are curious about and sometimes misunderstood. There's different ways of thinking about modes, and in my opinion, some ways are better than others. But a good way, I think, to kind of get started is to become familiar with what is normal, normal in quotes. And by that, I'm simply talking about the major and the minor scale, natural major, natural minor, so that when we hear changes, which is what the modes provide, we can identify those changes and hear how they're different from natural major and natural minor. So we'll start off relatively, with some of the fundamentals, and just sort of talk about what makes up a major scale, what kind of chords you can build just using the notes from the major scale, and the major scale pattern, and then give just a simple, brief musical example of what it sounds like to play in a major scale. Chord progression, a little bit of a lead solo over the top of something, nothing flashy, just trying to establish the sound in our ears. Okay. um so to talk about the major scale, I'm just going to be basing off of the key of A. There we are. And so that's going to be my root, that's going to be my 1. We got 7 notes in the major scale, as with many scales. And the fundamental pattern that you're going to need to apply, starting on your root note, to build a major scale in any key, you start with the root, go up a whole step to the second tone, go up another whole step to the third tone, go up a half step to the fourth tone, whole step for the fifth tone, whole step for the sixth tone, whole step for the seventh tone, and a half step back to the root, an octave higher. Okay? So, the overall pattern, you start on the root, whole step, half step, whole step, whole step, whole step, half step. Right? Main takeaway from this is that we have 2 places where there is a half step relationship between the notes in the scale. Okay? Between 3 and 4, and between 7 and 8. And those are very important relationships. We're going to come back to this. But in a major scale, the only place where you have half step relationships between 2 consecutive notes are between 3 and 4. 1, 2, 3, half step. 5, 6, 7, half step. Okay? Now I'm only playing the major scale in one particular place. We'll probably have a video later on that explores playing the major scale at various places across the neck. It doesn't really matter where you start, the relationship is still going to be the same. So I could play the same scale up here. Okay, same notes. Play here. Same relationships, okay? Just whole step, half step, whole step, half step. Now, when you're in a major key, you can build chords off of any one of these notes. 7 different notes, 7 different diatonic chords. Diatonic simply meaning that we're not using any notes outside of the key, right? Okay. So the way you build a simple triad, simple chord, simple triad, triad means 3 notes, is that you start on the note that you want to build the chord off of, and you count that as 1, and then you take 3, and then you take 5. And those notes are used together to form your basic triad, 1, 3, and 5, right? So I'm going to start on the first note of the scale, A, and I'll take the third note relative to A being 1. All right, so 1, skip 2, take 3, which is C sharp, skip 4, take 5, which is E. So 1, 3, 5 from A is A, C sharp, E. Easy enough. And we find out that this is a major chord. Those are the 3 notes that are being used to build a basic A major chord, the open chord here. I've got an A, I've got an E, I've got another A, a C sharp, and an E, right? Those are the only 3 notes that I use to build that chord. I can do the same thing starting off the second tone in the scale, B, and let's see what kind of chord we come up with there. Now B is 1, skip to C sharp, take 3, which is D in this case, skip 4, take 5, which is F sharp, so we've got B, D, F sharp. Now the relationship between the first note and the third note in that triad defines whether it's major or minor. And in this case, that relationship is minor. If we use this, that would be major. But this note right here, D sharp, not in the key. Okay, not in the key of A. So we can't use that version of D. We have to use D natural. That makes it a minor triad. Right? So the the chord built off the second note in the scale, is minor. And we can go through and we can build triads on all 7 notes in a major key. I could do that. I'm not going to waste our time. Trust me on this. The way it turns out is that the 1 chord ends up being major, the 2 chord is minor, the 3 chord is also minor, the 4 chord is major, 5 chord is major, the 6 chord is minor, the 7 chord is diminished. What does that mean? We'll come back to that later. Don't worry about it. And once we get back to the 1 chord, we're major again. So major, minor, minor, major, major, minor, diminished, and then back to the 1 chord. Okay? So 1, 4, and 5 are your major chords in a major key. And if you've ever listened to, you know, Louie Louie or Wild Thing or whatever, those are the 3 major chords that they're using. Cool. 2, 3, and 6 are your minor chords. 2, 3, and 6. With 6 being kind of the most common minor chord being used in a major key, at least like in popular genres of music. So Heart and Soul. 1 major, 6 minor, 4 major, 5 major. 1, 6, 4, 5. Okay. 2 is used also relatively often. 3 is used sometimes, but probably not as often as 2 or 6. Okay. So now that we've kind of broken down the components that make up regular natural major, also known as Ionian, if we're referring to it by its modal name, just to kind of give us a sense of what this thing sounds like in context, I'm going to make up a chord progression and put it on my looper and repeat it based on nothing but the notes of a major scale. And then I'm going to play melodically over the top of it. Okay? I'm sure you're all very familiar with what a major scale sounds like and what the major chord progression sounds like. This is nothing new. I'm just establishing sort of a baseline, what is normally done, all right? So that we can listen to it in contrast when we get into the modes. All right. So let's see here. Major key. All right. So that's the basic idea. I went 1 chord, 4 chord, back to a 1 chord in an inversion. We'll talk about that later. 4, 5, went up to 6, down to 2, 3, 4, 5, and then back to 1. Okay? So I'm only using those 1, 4, and 5 major chords, 2, 3, and 6 minor chords to build that progression. Okay? Now I'm going to play it back and I'll do a little melodic lead over the top of it with the melody notes from the major scale, and we can hear how that kind of sets things up. Here we go. There you go. Just an example, nothing flashy. Hit a couple of weird notes here and there, but you get the idea, all right? We're just establishing the sound so that we can compare it to other sounds. Okay, hopefully this made sense and was helpful to some of you at least. Look forward to more videos coming up where we're going to look at some contrasting sounds, includes modes, and we'll see where that takes us from there. But thanks for watching.